Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This lovely cat mug is full of berry bunch from Alice's Teacup, and it's nice. It's tasty. Good. Not a pick me up, but not a put me down. And I thought that would be a nice way to start off 2025 because this is the first video I'm gonna post for 2025, and I just thought I'd talk just a slightly informal, I guess, conversation about my reading bookish plans for the year, and not really a whole list of authors and types of goal, which I have in my head, things I would like to read more of this year. That's fine, but just my thinking about things, and um, just based on my own reading experiences. I will be looking down a little bit because I took some notes, so I didn't want to forget. But try not to do it too much because I know it's annoying. But anyway, that's probably a good goal for the year as well. Not apologizing every 5 minutes, right? Oh well, sorry about that. Anyway, so the first thing I want to talk about is the number of books that I finish. My goal is to not care. Not that I wouldn't be, happy if I read more. When I say reading more books, I mean finishing titles. I don't look at the pages or whatever. I spend plenty of time reading already, and I enjoy it. And but that's what I want to focus on. I want to be enjoying my reading experience entirely. And of course, there's gonna be books I don't like, and that's fine. But I want the main reason that I'm reading is because either I want to learn something on my own, or I want to enjoy my reading experience, or a combination of both. I don't want to keep worrying about numbers. Don't we have to worry about numbers so much in our life? Oh, I must lose weight. I must gain weight. I must watch my blood pressure. I must look at my sales figures. Look at my steps, how many steps I'm walking. I mean, not that any of these things are specifically wrong, but I don't want to always be concerned with that while I'm reading. And while I want to, have a mild analysis in my life when I'm looking at numbers, in terms of, I do keep track of how much I read, so that's okay. Just in terms of, okay, I read X amount of books. This is less than last year. Um, what can I do differently this year, um, without giving myself burnout, possibly? Or I read more this year. What did I do differently, and should I stick with it? Nothing wrong with these thoughts, but just not for it to be the main factor in my reading experience. And I think that's a good thing. I've been on a bit of social media the past month where people are really rounding up the amount of books they read, and most people are about that. I don't think it's wrong if you're excited that you read more than you did last year or something, and you're sharing that with people. I don't think people should tear each other down for doing that. It's good. It's nice. Um, but I also think some people, not too many people on BookTube actually that I've seen, but maybe on other um, mediums, will be a little over over much about that, maybe even competitive. I saw one person, because most people I know who posted their Goodreads challenge, and whether they made more or less, um, it was a quick thing. Look, oh yay, I did this, whatever, quick. I saw this one person who posted they had like a goal of 100 books, and they read 690 books, and they posted this picture of them pointing up and looking really, like, almost way too happy with themselves. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be happy with yourselves for accomplishing things, but I was like, what? I'm not saying it's physically impossible to read that much in a year. I know that there are people who can. I'm just saying, like, the explanation was that they read at 3 times speed on audiobooks. And oh, I don't want to be putting people down. I really don't. But I just felt a little like, in order to read that much more in one's life, except for a very few people who have a lot of time, do not require much sleep, right? And just have a natural reading speed, you have to be a reading machine. And I want to be a reading human. Books are a very human experience. And I mean, my cats sleep on top of books, they don't read them. And machines read things in a different way, not for enjoyment, at least not yet. So that's all. Again, I don't want to be overcritical of other people who are about numbers more. Sometimes People like to challenge themselves, you know. I have friends that run the New York Marathon and they enjoy it. I don't want to. But I don't look down on them for challenging themselves. That's a beautiful thing and they're happy with that. So I'm happy for them. But I know when some things are just not for me. And being over challenging oneself instead of just organically reading and loving it and just, you know, keeping track but not overthinking it is where I want to be at. And so I don't want to like just unfollow people who are too much about numbers, but I am a little more selective because I remember I listened to a lot more podcasts than I did last year, I think, or the year before. And some of them are very good about reading and they talk about the books they read. That's fine. But I remember I had my podcast going all night. So I'd wake up in the middle of the night and hear a conversation and I'm like, was that a dream I just had? Some ladies were talking about how much they were reading, and normally I don't care so much, but they were saying something about, oh, you know, I only read 8 books last month and I normally read about 12. Again, reading 12 books a month, was that 144 books in a year? That's fine. But I felt like that kind of focus, talking about that too much, it's something I don't really want to hear too much personally. If you want to, that's not, you know, but I don't want to hear too much because it turns reading into something that I don't want reading to be. And let's talk about what we read, not how much. Anyway, that's enough about that. So I hope I'm not too overcritical of people. I really don't want to be that way. I just want to say how I want to be because life is not every minute, but often very stressful. Life is, you know, gives challenges that we have to face. I don't want to do that to myself. But anyway, let's get a little more positive, I hope, or maybe not. We'll see. The next thing that I am planning for 2025 is reading my own books, which I do already. And I am going to use numbers here again. Anyway, I don't hate numbers, actually. I'm not great at math, but I also sort of like some of it. But anyway, what I mean here is that I didn't look up the percentage of how many books I read of my own versus public library books, but from what I can tell, it was over half the books that I read. Not an extreme over half, but a little bit over half the books that I read in 2024 were from the public library. And of course, that's not a bad thing per se. I do think it's great. I mean, growing up, most of the books I read were from the public library because that's where I could get books. And I will continue to support it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I own way too many books. And I'm going to probably make another video one day about, you know, maybe how much is too many books or whatever. But I'm not up to that right now. The point being that, I mean, these are only just some of the books that I have. And I've read a good number of them, but a really good number of them I haven't read. And it just seems silly to read so many books out of the library, going to a place, picking up, because it's usually physical. A couple of the library books were digital. But going out, picking up books, sometimes heavy ones, because I don't drive, so I have to schlep them in a backpack or something, coming home on the subway. And I got a whole family on my case about my bags being too heavy for me. And they're probably right. So, which doesn't mean I'm not going to carry books with me. Oh, no. But how many times do I check books out, carry, 2-3 books home with me, only read maybe one of them, and then what am I doing? So, not going to stop going to public libraries, but cutting down. That's my whole thing. And this is, I think, again, going back to numbers, such a hypocrite. But yeah, I think I want to limit the number of books I have checked out of the library at a time. Right now I have, if I remember correctly, 4 books checked out of the library. 3 of them are ready to go back, and 1 of them I'm still reading. So I would just say 5 books. If I had 5 total at any time checked out of the public library, that's fine. Because I do read a number of books, not simultaneously, but in the same time period. And there's nothing wrong with that for me. That's what I like to do. And, but I do find that because public libraries, even though, we don't get fines anymore, at a certain point, it is a little late to be keeping books out. And I don't want to have books out that I'm not reading and don't plan on reading anytime soon that other people are looking to put a hold on. And meanwhile, I have so many books that I own. So I want to limit the public library books to either new releases that I really, really, really want to read and don't want to pay full price for. Freddie's here. Or, hi Freddie. Or, like if I'm part of a challenge, a group read or something, that means that I'm going to need to check a book from the library, or a book that just gets recommended that just sounds absolutely, I must have it now. Most of the time, though, I don't need a book right then and there. So I want to maybe question myself. And the same goes for when I go to book shops or online looking at books. I'm not going to stop buying books, but I'm going to cut down. Kind of like instead of cutting a food that you really like or a drink out of your life entirely all at once, cold turkey, instead having it more as a treat once in a while. Yeah. I did a little better actually in 2024. I did a lot better. I bought fewer books, which is great, but I could probably lower it a little bit. So my aim, and I think this is even not as dramatic as it could be, is at least 70% of the books that I read should be books that I own, and books that I own already, not books that I bought in, April of 2025. Books that are here, over there, and over there. There's only a few people who watch this that know how many books I have, and my sister is one of them, and so she knows where I'm pointing at. So if I could do that, like, when people are told to, like, oh, you need to go on a budget, so stop buying so many clothes. What do they tell you? Shop your closet. And it always sounds a little annoying. It's like, I know, I have a closet full of clothes. But honestly, sometimes you will find that you go into your closet and realize, hey, I haven't worn this dress in like 6 months. Wow. So the same thing can happen with books. Hey, I bought this book 6 years ago, and why am I not reading it? So in other words, looking at the book and saying, well, if I'm really not planning to ever read this book, maybe I should find someone else who would like this book. Put it in a little free library or something instead of holding on to it. But at the same time, trying to just look at my books and say, which of these am I in the mood to read? Because that would be pretty great. So that leads into the Freddie wants to be loved. I know you can't see him here except for maybe the top of his little ear, but he's just the cutest thing. He wants to be fed, and he was already fed, by the way, so he just wants more. That's cats. They're never satisfied. Anyway, but we're never satisfied with the amount of books we have either, are we? Anyway, so this is another thing that I need to look into. It's very similar, and it's my, I've been doing actually pretty well with this, so I'm not going to say that, oh, I'm doing terribly, but just balancing the amount of books that I read that are mood reads and group reads and part of challenges. There are a few monthly events that I will always want to be a part of. And even if I'm not as much, like every once in a while there's an event that I'm looking forward to, but when it comes, I'm actually in the mood to read other books. But it doesn't usually take away the mood for that event. It's just that maybe it halves it a little bit. So, like for instance, last October, I did Victober. I had a whole bunch of TBR, which is fine. I'm always gonna, enjoy looking things up and saying what would I like to read. But at the same time, there were a couple of books that I suddenly really wanted to read that had nothing to do with Victober. And at first I said, well, why can't I wait till November? Hey, this one's nonfiction. Why am I going to read it now? But then I said, wait, why can't I just read what I want to read? So that's where I want to find a balance. I don't want to just be all over the place either. Sometimes you do want to finish what you started, but I want to not stress. And this is actually probably the thing that I'm saying the most. I think the two focuses that I have for the year are enjoy what you're reading, have a great time. That's the main thing, but also not to stress. Life is stressful. Um, so if I'm overwhelming myself with trying to organize my TBRs, when I know that I'm a natural mood reader for the most part. So so having TBRs, I'm going to continue to do them, but I'm not, but they're going to be more of pile of possibilities, and I will always factor in mood reading, and, or I should say I can keep factoring in mood reading and enjoy it. But I will occasionally, I will do some group reads because they're fun. But if I'm part of a group that has group reads and one of the ones that are picked are something that I'm just not really into, I'm not going to force myself to read it. Because sometimes I've done that where I've said, "Oh, I want to be part of the discussion. It's nice, but I really wasn't in the mood for this book anytime soon." Or going back to the other thing, "Oh, now I'm going to have to take this out of the library or buy it or whatever." And not that it's always wrong, because sometimes it's a book that you maybe weren't quite in the mood for, but you did have as a possibility for the future. But I still want to not overburden myself with the pressure of, oh, this is something that I'm putting on myself that is going to take a little more effort than is needed. So, it's not a big deal, but again, I just want to enjoy my reading, and I want that to come forth in when I make videos, when whatever um whoever likes to watch me talk about books, I want the joy of reading to come out, because there's so many non-joyful things in life. Let's have a good time reading. I think most of the people who watch this are readers. Isn't that what we're all about? So I don't want stress to come forth. But anyway, there are some authors that I do have going in my life, as far as I want to read more of these writers, and I will continue to be on them, and occasionally I will mention them. But really, I have to also, and this is something I've actually talked about more, that is on my mind. There's a couple of writers that I started some of their books and never finished them, and I don't know why I didn't finish them, because they were perfectly good books. And then I realized that on my Goodreads list of currently reading, there's a massive amount going back a number of years. And so I also want to say, well, when do I say when? When do I give up on this book? Is it a permanent DNF, or should I go revisit it? The biggest example for me, I think, in my opinion, is Dombey and Son. This is a book that I really liked reading, and I was reading it in earnest in early 2020, and then I didn't, and then I started reading other things during when the pandemic started, and then I got back to it a few times, but I got maybe over halfway through, and I actually want to read it. So I would like to give it one more shot. So, but I also want to look at the books that I had as currently reading and say, okay, am I really going to read this? So that's another thing. So this is another thing that is about reading, but is more about writing. And that is to try to write a little more about my reading. I know I have this channel so I can talk, which is wonderful, by the way. I honestly, you guys, by watching, are doing me more of a favor than I am, I think, ever, by letting me talk on and on for as long as I'm talking right now about books and reading. It's wonderful. It's a great outlet. But I do also enjoy keeping book journals, and I did that a lot more in the past, and I'd like to continue doing that. I had actually a time a couple months ago wherein I had a it's kind of not a pleasant thing, a thing called a digital ulcer. This hand, you can't really see it, but you could see the nails a little weird. But and it was extremely painful, and I literally could not handwrite without absolute pain. And so when that happened to me, it was only like a week or so where I couldn't write, but it made me really realize how much I value writing, and like literally handwriting. And I don't want to forget that. I want to go back to being more of a journaler And so I will hope to share that progress with you guys. And also, what I used to do, and in April of this month, it will be 20 years since I started a blog. And I enjoyed blogging. I used to blog a lot about tea and other experiences, sharing pictures from trips and my cats and whatnot, and what's going on in my life. But it became a lot more about a reading blog over the years than anything else. And I used to love doing that. And I miss it, and I'm wondering if I should get back to it. Maybe not my old blog that I used to have, which was actually called Taking Tea with Catherine. But wow, so so varied. But I was thinking there a lot of people now are using Substack to make to write about things, whatever they want to write about. And I follow some that are history. What do they call them? Substackers? I don't even know. Um, it's called Substack, right? I don't even know. Sounds made up now. Um, anyway, so I was thinking about doing something like that about reading, and I would like, actually, if whoever's still watching, I would like your opinion. Should I? Would you want to watch to read something like that, or at least try reading something like that? And if so, should I continue calling it Taking Tea with Catherine, or come up with another name? Just call it by my actual name, maybe? I don't know. So I would like a little bit of input with that, and because, open for discussion. So please let me know in your comments if you have any goals for the year, or plans, or anything having to do with 2025 and reading and or writing. And let me know if any of these are similar to what you have. Do you have moments where you feel like you should really be reading more, and other times where you feel a little petty about that whole situation and realize that's not the way to be? Do you get a little stressed about reading and then realize, no, I need to relax? Because that's what I'm seeing a lot of. A lot of people are saying, well, I need to calm down a little bit. So let's see if we can calm down. Drink more herbal tea, more tisane, as Poirot says, because I will try to read more Poirot and Marple this year. That's another example of books I'd like to read. And that is all for now. This is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled year.